time neighbors would be allowed to come in and give us any comments on that. Okay, so with that said, item number 1 is a decision, Appeal 4054, Salvatore Spezial, 2808 Route 52, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 3-foot side yard variance for an existing shed. Hold on. Before I do this, we had one more thing we had to do. Cabibbo. Okay. Sorry, guys. Before we get to item number 1, there's one other item of business. We, as a board, had previously approved an appeal for Daniel Cabibbo, for him to be able to do an addition to his house for his in-laws or father or somebody, an older relative, to be able to live in the small apartment, and then a 1-car garage for the father to be able to park his garage. Mr. Cabibbo has now come back and said that doing all that he expected was going to be too expensive, and so what he'd like to do instead is to convert his existing 3-car garage into the accessory apartment for his father, or the relative, whoever it was, and instead build just a new 3-car garage off the back. So not a 1-car garage, but a 3-car garage, and not the full addition, although it's pretty close.
The garage was going to be 510 and the addition was 910. Now they're doing a detached garage 912.
Yeah, so it's less of an impact. A variance that's needed, they needed a side yard variance and a rear line variance. Now all they need is the rear line variance because there's not the two uses in a larger structure. So we, because it's less impactful than what we had previously approved, and we don't want to just leave an approval out there for them to expand without the neighbors being able to comment on it, we have a resolution in our packet that if the board wishes to approve this, we can adopt it with recognizing that all he needs is the one variance that we've already granted, but it's a slightly different use. And so it's a slight change to his original application, or we have him come in and explain it all. But we felt because it was now, we've already held a public hearing on the size of the variance. The issue is just the fact that he's switching around a little bit. So sorry for that long explanation, but what's the pleasure of the board?
Yeah, again, the impact is going to be lessened, and
Right.
the variance is minuscule. I mean, he's asking for something less. He already got approved for more, so I don't know if we need to go through the whole cycle. So I would propose to,
You want to read the resolution? Do you want to offer the resolution?
Unless somebody else has another issue. I don't have a problem.
No, I don't have an issue with it whatsoever, because we already,
No, I agree.
Okay, so this is appeal number 4027. Applicant is Daniel Cabibbo, requesting a 28-foot rear line variance from the schedule of bulk regulations to allow a proposed 912 square foot 3-car detached garage, which is the variances.
Well, it's now one variance.
One variance is okay. And the variance. Resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Ahsan.
Do me a favor, just read the address, because we didn't
Oh, okay.
talk about where the address is.
The location of the property is 191 Creekside Road, Hopewell Junction, the property. Resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Ahsan, whereas the applicant applied in 2022 to the ZBA for variances in order to create additional living space in his home for his parents, and whereas the applicant applied for and was granted, 1, an 11-foot sideline variance from the schedule of bulk regulations to allow a proposed 510 square foot garage, and 2, a 28-foot rear line variance from the schedule of bulk regulations to allow a proposed 950 square foot addition, and whereas after the approval, the applicant has decided to forego the installation of an addition to his home, and instead decided to pursue the creation of a 3-car detached garage totaling 912 square foot. And whereas the proposed size of the detached garage meets the requirement under section 194 107C of the Town Code, and no variances is required. And whereas this is a type 2 action under seeker, and whereas no additional public hearing is required, since the only variance that the applicant is now requesting is a 28-foot rear line variance, which was previously granted by the ZBA, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, as the property will remain residential in nature. The desired result cannot be achieved by some other means due to the location of the driveway. The variance would be deemed substantial, but the applicant has proposed the minimal variance which would accomplish the desired result. The variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request by Daniel Cabebo for a 28-foot rear line variance from the Schedule of Bulk Regulations to allow a proposed 912 square foot 3-car detached garage. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows: Aziz.
Aye.
Rocco.
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
And myself, aye. So the motion carries. Okay. Now we will go to item number 1. Appeal 4054, Salvatore Spezial, 2808 Route 52, Hopewell, requesting a 3-foot side yard variance for an existing shed that 19 by 20 feet or 380 square feet pursuant to the Schedule of Bulk Regulations of the zoning ordinance, and a 4-foot variance for a proposed shared driveway that would be 12 feet wide when it should be 16 feet pursuant to Section 194-67.1 of the zoning ordinance. So again, we've already conducted a public hearing. We've closed that public hearing. We were just waiting for the planning board to be able to declare themselves lead agency and be able to do the seeker review that would encompass our action. So does somebody wish to offer this resolution?
I'll offer it. Alberto Paratore reading the resolution. Appeal number 4054, applicant is Salvatore Speziali. Name of project, he's requesting a 3-foot side yard variance from the requirements of the Schedule of Bulk Regulations for an existing 19 by 20, 380 square feet shed. Secondly, a 4-foot variance from the requirements of Section 194-67.1 of the zoning ordinance for the shared driveway measuring 12 feet wide and 16 feet is required, the variances. The location is 2808 Route 52, Hopewell Junction. Tax number is 6556-01-434927, zoning district R1. Resolution offered by the zoning board is me. Whereas the applicant applied to the planning for a subdivision to create 1 extra lot, and whereas the property is approximately 18 acres in size, but is very long and thin, and whereas due to the layout of the property, the applicant's design professional designed a shared driveway to maximize space to preserve existing trees. And whereas Section 194-61.1 C3 requires that a shared driveway be 16 feet with a 2-foot clear shoulder on each side, and whereas the applicant is only able to provide a 12-foot wide driveway necessitating a variance, and whereas the other required variance is for an existing shed, and whereas the planning board was the lead agency in a coordinated review under SECRA, and whereas the ZBA closed its public hearing on February 28, 2023, but reserved its decision so that the planning board could issue its determination of significance under SECRA, and whereas the planning board issued a negative declaration at its meeting on March 21st, 2023, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Dutchess News on March 22nd, 2023, and whereas The Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variances will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, since the applicant proposed his design to preserve the existing country feel of his property. The desired result could be achieved by other means, but the applicant believes the shared driveway design is preferable to preserve the existing trees and the aesthetic appeal of the property. The variances are not substantial. The variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical and environmental conditions. Now therefore, be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request from Salvador Speziale for 1, a 3-foot side yard variance from the requirements of the Schedule of Bulk Regulations for an existing 19 by 20, 300 square feet shed, and 2, a 4-foot variance from the requirements of Section 193-67.1 of the zoning ordinance for a shared driveway measuring 12 feet wide when 16 feet is required, subject to the applicant's attorney completing a shared driveway access and maintenance agreement to the satisfaction of the town attorney's office. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or the duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows: Aziz.
Aye.
Rocco.
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
And myself, aye. All right, so that's item number 1. We are not taking care of item number 2, as I stated previously. So item number 3 is a public hearing, Appeal 4055 Santo Barbara Giovanni, 7 Leonard Place, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 14-foot side yard variance for existing pool equipment pursuant to the Schedule of Bulk Regulations of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening. Hello. All right, so we had an opportunity to review your application last month. Your contractor knew what the limits were. It was all staked out. He put the pool in. You went to work one day, came home, and found that the equipment was not where it was supposed to be. But your contractor said, "No, don't worry about it." You know. So, but at least you've had a conversation with your neighbor. Your neighbor is okay with it. Actually, I think your neighbor sends a letter in. Hold on, if I have it already. Yeah, I have it here, so I will read that into the record, okay? But again, you've done everything we would ask. We've talked about putting some shrubs in there so that could potentially absorb some of the noise. But comments or questions from board members before I read the neighbor letter into the record?
I'm good.
No, good.
I'm good. No
Okay.
comments or questions?
So we have a letter from Richard Wunst, 134 Creamery Road, to whom it may concern, dated March 7, 2023. To whom it may concern, my name is Richard Wunst, and I reside at 134 Creamery Road, Hopewell. My neighbor, Santo Barbara Giovanni, installed a pool in his yard, which is visible from my backyard. Santo indicated he would be putting shrubs around the pool equipment to make the equipment less visible and more inconspicuous. I agreed that that would be more than sufficient to make the pool equipment less visible from my yard. Please accept this letter as an indication that I fully support Santo receiving the variance for the pool equipment. So thank you for taking the time to work out any issues with your neighbor. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak for or against the request from Santo Barbara Giovanni, 7 Leonard Place, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 14-foot sideline variance for existing pool equipment? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All righty then. We have appeal number 4055, Santo Barbara Giovanni is the name of the applicant. The project is a 14-foot sideline variance from the requirements of the Schedule of Bulk Regulations for existing pool equipment. It's located at 7 Leonard Place in Hopewell Junction. Resolution is being offered by zoning board member Rocco Limitone. Whereas the applicant's pool was installed in June of 2022, and whereas the applicant's surveyor marked the boundaries of the property prior to the installation of pool equipment, but his contractor still installed pool equipment in an area necessitating the requested variance. And whereas the applicant plans to install shrubs to screen the pool equipment and mitigate potential noise impacts. And whereas the applicant has also discussed sharing the cost of adding a fence with his adjacent neighbor. And whereas this is a type 2 action under SECRA and no further review is required. And whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on March 28, 2023, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Dutchess News on March 22, 2023. And whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, since the property will remain residential in nature. The desired result cannot be achieved by other means due to the location of the pool. The variance could be deemed substantial, but its impact will be mitigated by screening the pool equipment with shrubs. The variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request from Santo Barbagiovanni for a 14-foot sideline variance from the requirements of the scheduled bulk regulations for the existing pool equipment, subject to the applicant implementing a landscaping plan satisfactory to the engineering and our planning divisions. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows: Aziz.
Aye.
Rocco.
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
And myself, aye. Your motion carries. You're all set.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for taking the time to speak with your neighbor. Okay, item number 4, Appeal 4056, Kimberly Corners Corp., Thomas Cunningham, 1610 Route 82, LaGrangeville, requesting a special permit to allow a caretaker apartment in the shopping plaza pursuant to Section 194-44 of the zoning ordinance. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so again, we had the opportunity to review your application. You came in many, many, many years ago and actually got approval for a caretaker cottage for this property that has the post office or a postal facility, a daycare center, a beauty salon. You've got a bunch of different uses out there. But you never went ahead and actually had the caretaker cottage created or built in. So you are back, your approval expired, you're back seeking to get that approval put back in place. What came to our attention in reviewing your application was that you do have an outstanding violation for a fire escape, which is being resolved but hasn't yet been inspected or
That's
something like
correct.
that.
We have to do an inspection, and there's another tenant that needs to apply for some as-built signage.
Okay, and then there's also an issue with the health department about whether you're even going to be allowed, whether your septic can handle a caretaker cottage. So, but I understand, you need to get something from us that says you can even have the cottage before you go and pursue what you need to do to make the septic accommodate that.
The preliminary review, that it shows we have sufficient capacity, but that will have to await your decision, and then the health department works with our engineer, and that's the way they did it last.
Okay, so again, this board had previously granted the caretaker accessory apartment. We allow them, particularly plazas, because as Mr. Cunningham explained to us last time, the uses in this plaza start very, very early in the morning with the post office, very early, daycare very early, and then some of the other uses go very late in the evening. And so when you've got as many businesses as there are within there, it's kind of important to have somebody on the scene pretty regularly. So comments or questions from board members?
Yes, I do have a question. So we would be approving this prior to the approval of the fire escape and the septic?
So the fire escape has been dealt with, it's just not, there's not a final inspection to document the fire.
That's what I mean, that's
So
been approved.
any approval that we would give, I don't know that we're in a position to grant approval. We would want to see that everything's
we're not going to grant approval tonight anyway. There's
Yeah.
no decision order ready, so they have.
We just want to see if there's any issues out there from the public, and anything we would approve would be subject to approval of the Board of Health or anything, any other agencies, so. Okay?
Yeah, that was the only question I had. I would be uncomfortable doing anything until those are cleared up.
That's why I agree with you. I don't like dealing with properties that have violations on them. Any other questions from board members?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request Kimberly Corners Corp., 1610 Route 82, LaGrangeville, requesting a special permit to allow a caretaker apartment in the shopping plaza? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Are we closing and reserving, or are we?
Yes. There's no reason to not close
There's no
it.
decision.
Okay, so I make a motion to close and reserve the decision.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so you'll be first on the agenda next month for the decision. You don't even need to come, that's fine, you'll be informed later.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
have a good evening. Item number 5, Appeal 4057, Nancy Zvankovic, 70 Miller Hill Road, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 17-foot sideline variance for a proposed 1,448 square foot addition pursuant to the schedule of bulk regulations of the zoning ordinance. Oh, sorry, this public hearing's going to be April 25th, so that's not even on for tonight. Let's move right along. Item number 6, Appeal 40...
Okay, what happened to, oh, okay, I see the bottom.
Yeah,
Okay,
forgot that.
okay, yeah. I saw it.
Appeal 4058, Scott Bryant, 45 Old Route 52, Stormville, is requesting a 10-foot sideline variance and a 570 square foot size variance for a proposed 30-foot by 44 foot or 1,320 square foot detached garage pursuant to the schedule of bulk regulations of the zoning ordinance. The footprint of the existing house is only 833 square feet. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So good evening.
Good evening.
So we had the opportunity to review your application. This is a property that you inherited after your mom passed, and you are looking to build a standalone detached garage separate from the house that's there. It's a very small house, so that's why you have to deal with the limitations of the,
And it's an odd-shaped lot,
and it's a, right.
uniquely shaped lot.
And you have access actually on both 52 and Old Route 52.
Correct.
The house on Old Route 52.
Right.
But you're proposing to have access for the garage if you can get a curb cut from New York State DOT off of 52.
Correct.
But the existing house is now rented out, which raised some concern for us because we had another property in town that came to us where they had 2 very large garages and they were renting the house, so they weren't actually living there. But in this case, you've explained to us you've got something of a car collection and you'd like space for a potential RV at some point. So you've given us a floor plan to show how you would use it. It's really meant for 3 cars and the 1 RV.
Correct.
So it's not like the other example of what we have somewhere else in town. So
They didn't come ahead of time.
that's the other issue, exactly. And you are actually allowed the 1 detached garage. Does the existing house have a garage, by the way?
Mine or...
Does the existing house there, the 833
No.
square foot house?
No.
Okay, so a property should have a garage. You know, you always have uses and materials, lawnmowers, et cetera, that
Exactly.
are best not stored outside. So comments or questions from board members?
No.
None.
Only question is, do you plan to have a entrance from Route 52, or you,
Yeah, he's...
That's what I would like to do.
Okay, that's what
I'm
you'd like.
working with DOT to try to get that permit.
okay,
Yes.
okay, then you'll have a private access back and forth, which is fine.
Exactly. And a
just wanna make
shorter
sure that-
access, a cleaner access, yeah.
Yeah, cleaner access, correct. Okay, so I'm good with that.
And what color did you decide on?
It's like a maroonish red and green.
Okay, so the idea is to have it look like a barn.
Yes, to look like a
Okay,
barn.
so it would look like, not necessarily looking like a garage, it would
Windows.
look like a
With-
barn.
With some windows.
Yeah. So, is there anyone here who wishes to speak for or against the request from Scott Bryan, 45 Old Route 52, Stormville, requesting a 10-foot sideline variance and a 570 square foot size variance for a proposed 30-foot by 44-foot or 1,320 square foot detached garage? Sure. Scott, if you don't mind, we'll ask you to sit down. If you could, state your name.
My name's Mark Alexander.
Okay,
I live in 41 Old Route 52.
okay.
Just wondering how tall the building that's proposed is going to be?
It is a one-story, but it would have, right, if I remember? Okay, but I was just going to say, but it will have a garage door that, you said 12 feet for the garage door because you want to be able to pull the RV in there. So it would be 14 feet high.
Okay,
I should have stated it was only going to be the one story, so,
okay.
okay?
Yeah, we have some trees we have an adjacent lot that goes the whole length to 52 as well.
Okay,
And I was looking to take down those trees because God forbid if it fell on the proposed barn, would that be okay to do? The only problem is-
if the trees are on your property, you are allowed to take care of trees and maintain trees on your property.
Okay. That's
I'm on
all.
the opposite side, though.
Yeah.
Of the lot?
I'm on the opposite side from where I border his property.
Okay,
His trees will never hit me. I do it on the other side, but
Okay.
that's his business if he wants to.
Yeah.
Person taking trees.
do me a favor, come to the microphone if you're going to speak.
Come on, let's go.
Well, I appreciate that. My garage is on the opposite side of the lot, so those trees can't reach my garage, but it's up to him if he wants to take down his trees, so.
Got it.
All right, I'm good.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Resolution?
This is appeal number 4058. Applicant is Scott Bryan, requesting a 10-foot sideline variance from the requirement of Schedule of Bulk Regulations for a proposed detached garage
Hold
and,
on 1 second, guys. We have a neighbor letter.
oh, sorry.
So I need a motion to reconvene the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
So I just want to put a neighbor letter on the record. To whom it may concern, from John DeForest Jr., dated March 24th, 2023. I have no objection to the proposed barn, 44 feet by 30 feet, Scott Barn is planning on putting up, and the location of the barn or detached garage, signed sincerely. So again, just for the record, there's a neighbor letter, and they are not concerned about it.
They're the people closest to me.
Okay, thank you.
So the
So
neighbors,
now a motion to,
so both the neighbors have approved it, so we're
yeah,
good.
or don't have objections to it, I think is a better way to say
Motion to
it.
close the public hearing?
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor? Good, thank you. Now we're closed.
Okay, appeal number 4058, applicant is Scott Bryan, requesting it, number one, 10-foot sideline variance from the requirement of Schedule of Bulk Regulations for a proposed detached garage, and two, a 570 square foot size variance from the requirement of Schedule of Bulk Regulations in section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance for a proposed 30 feet by 44 foot 1,320 square foot detached garage. The variances, the resolution offered by zoning board member Aziz Hassan, whereas the applicant is applying to install a detached garage for storage of vehicles and an RV, and whereas the footprint of the existing house is 833 square foot, and whereas the property has frontage on both Old Route 52 and Route 52, and whereas the side of the frontage on Old Route 52 is considered the front yard per the zoning ordinance, and whereas the applicant intends to apply to the Department of Transportation, DOT, for direct access to the proposed garage from Route 52, and whereas at the February 28, 2023 meeting, the ZBA chairwoman disclosed that the applicant is a town employee as required pursuant to Section 809 of the General Municipal Law, and whereas the applicant does not have supervisory authority over the ZBA, and whereas this is a type 2 action under seeker and no further review is required, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals held a public hearing on March 28, 2023, and whereas the legal notice was published in the Southern Dutchess News on March 22nd, 2023, and whereas the Zoning Board of Appeals finds that the granting of the variance will not produce an undesirable change in the character of the neighborhood, since the property will remain residential in nature. The desired result cannot be achieved by other means due to the long, thin layout of the property and the applicant's desire to place an RV in the detached garage. The variance of this, for the size of the detached garage could be deemed substantial, but the applicant is mitigating potential impact with his proposed architectural design of the detached garage by having it look like a barn with a separate access from Route 52. The variance will not have an adverse effect or impact on the physical or environmental conditions. Now therefore be it resolved that the Zoning Board of Appeals hereby approves the request from Scott Bryant for one, a 10-foot sideline variance from the requirements of the Schedule of Bulk Regulations for a proposed detached garage, and two, a 570 square foot size variance from the requirement of the Schedule of Bulk Regulations in Section 194-107C of the zoning ordinance for a 30 feet by 44 feet, 1,320 square foot detached garage. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the zoning board shall cause a copy of the resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Is there a second?
Second.
Votes as follows: Aziz.
Aye.
Rocco.
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
And myself. Aye.
Thank you very
Motion
much.
carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that is it for our public hearings this evening. So now we're up to applications that this board has not had a chance to review. So let's get right into it. Item number 7, Appeal 4059, Anthony Pallone, 43 Saddle Ridge Drive, Hopewell, is requesting an 11-foot rear line variance for an existing 10-foot by 8 or 80 square foot shed with electric pursuant to the Schedule of Bulk Regulations of the zoning ordinance. Hi, good evening. So let's start by telling us, did you put the shed up, or was it there when you bought the property?
That shed's been there for about 30 years.
That's
by the previous
that's usually what happens, so that's why we ask. So the electric, it's a very small shed, so for it to have electric is surprising.
Yeah, it's got a light switch in there and an outlet.
Okay. So, have you spoken with your neighbor about it? I mean,
No,
it's been there for 30 years, you didn't put it up, so.
I didn't put it up.
What condition is it in?
It's in decent shape. I was thinking of putting a new roof on though, because some of the shingles have worn away.
Sure.
So I want to put on a new roof just to make it more.
Is it visible from the road?
Yes, you could see it from Saddle Ridge Drive. There is a
Okay.
tree right in front of it, so it's obscured, but it is visible.
Okay, and what color is it?
It's a gray color.
So it's not, doesn't really stand
It
out?
doesn't stand out.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Motion to advertise?
Motion to advertise for a public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so what happens now is next month you'll come back. In the meantime, you'll speak to Jeannie, she'll give you the information. You have to get a sign and post a sign on the front of your lawn so your neighbors know, because they're going to get a letter in the mail, and this goes for all of you so that you'll understand this. The town will send out letters to your neighbors within 250 feet, right, for zoning board?
250.
Not 500 feet, 500 feet of planning board, right? Yeah, so within 250 feet of any neighbor contiguous, well, not even contiguous, but within the 250 feet of your property line. And so this way, if you have a sign up front, they'll be able to see which property is. But Jeannie will tell you, there's information she's got typed up on the flyer for you. All right, and then we'll see you next month.
Okay, great, thank
Okay?
you.
Take care.
All right, item number 8, Appeal 4060, Nicholas Barbaria. My apologies if I'm pronouncing any of these names wrong. 24 Prentice Drive, Hopewell Junction, requesting a 1-foot sideline variance for a 6-foot fence pursuant to a Schedule of Bulk Regulations of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Good evening.
So my understanding is this fence exists?
No, this is a proposed fence.
This is a proposed, okay.
Yes.
And so you're looking for a 5-foot fence or a 6-foot?
6 foot.
Oh, okay, the issue is that the fence is going to be off the ground. It's not going to be 2 feet in. That's what the issue is.
Correct, it's a foot,
Okay.
1 foot 6 inches.
When you have a 6-foot fence,
Yes.
your fence is supposed to be 2 feet in from
Correct.
your property line.
Correct.
And it's not there already? Or is part of it in there now or something?
Part of it is not, so-
Part of it's, okay,
Yes.
that's what the issue. So
That
part,
was-
and you want to put this new additional fence
Correct.
in line with what's there already,
Correct.
rather than having it jar in, actually?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so who put the existing fence on? Yeah, up?
I had a company come in and do it for me.
But it was under your direction, and so
Correct,
that's...
yes.
But it was installed with only the 1 foot from the property line instead of the required 2 feet for the 6-foot fence. That's what we're dealing with.
Correct.
How long is this fence? So moving it is not going to be cheap.
No, and I originally thought that we had the variance covered the first time, because back when COVID was still happening, we did this all virtually on, a telecall or whatever. And I was under the impression that the variance got approved for the fence as well as it going past the front of my house.
Yeah.
And that wasn't the case when I had Matt come out and, come look at the proposed fence for the backyard now, and they saw that it was 1 foot 6 inches off of the property line. I submitted all the surveys, which I had done less than a year and a half ago, and I just figured that.
So it's actually 18 inches off and not the 1 foot, but because we give variances for the full foot,
yeah,
that's what the
okay,
issue is?
yes,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, so it's even further up.
Correct.
It's
So I was-
more in compliance than we thought it was.
Yes, so I'm here proposing a fence for the backyard to connect it to the fence that's already
Right.
around my
And
driveway.
it just makes sense to keep it in.
Correct, yes.
So does your neighbor have any objection?
No, I submitted a letter.
Okay, well, we'll read it at the public hearing.
Sure, no problem.
If I remember, we have a neighbor letter.
We had a letter the first time, too. It's here.
Yeah, that's the
Okay.
second letter. Yep.
Okay. Questions or concerns?
Motion to advertise.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so again, we will see you next month as well.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
Thank you. You do need a sign, so
Yes.
Jeannie will give you the information. If you still have your sign, just change
You
the
still have your old
information.
sign?
No, I got it. I didn't think I was going to go through this.
You didn't save it?
No, I didn't.
Oh, we got to
You
charge.
you didn't know he was coming back for a return visit.
Use it as a slave toy.
Good idea.
All right, item number 9, appeal, have a good night. Appeal 4061 Getaway House, 17 Monte Cristo TR Terrace? What's TR?
I think it's Trail.
Trail. Let's
yeah.
write that one out, because that's not one we see very often. Hopewell Junction requesting an appeal for a zoning interpretation issued February 2nd, 2023 by the zoning administrator determining proposed use by applicant would be defined as a trailer camp as set forth in the Town of East Fishkill zoning code, section 131-3, and not a, quote, large-scale planned recreational development, end quote, per section 194-3 and 194-59 of the zoning ordinance. This is going to be, all right, let's go. What are you proposing?
I'm getting a vibe for this.
This came in with this,
I know,
too, so-
I'm very verbose.
I did look
suppose
through it. It's quite interesting.
A lot of reading, and I apologize.
And then you handed us a multi-page letter tonight, so obviously
Yeah.
we haven't had a chance to go through all of it.
Well, that just basically goes over the fact that there's a couple of uses that are allowed within the R2 zoning district that really...
Okay, so take us through, presume we know, this is the first time we're seeing your application,
nothing.
obviously, so
You know
take us
nothing.
through what your, well, not that we know nothing,
Well,
but,
you're in luck because we do have a presentation. I don't know if you want to go through the entire thing, because I do value your time, but
tell us what you think we need to know to make an interpretation, because I have questions, that's for sure.
of course.
Start with a synopsis of it, and then we'll
Right.
neither you with some questions.
Well,
It would be helpful for the general public to understand what you're proposing, that's fine.
thankfully, I'm just the lowly attorney on, the lowest rung of the organization.
Oh, yeah, but you're the one in front of us, so we get to have fun with you.
Oh, yeah, I understand that.
So who is proposing to do what?
Well, thankfully, we have Getaway's Chief Development Officer here to explain exactly what's going on with this
Okay,
project.
you're
So,
both welcome to be at the podium, just please use the microphone.
if you want to, yeah, and I'm happy to run through the presentation.
Just give us your names, please.
Yep, let's see, there's a sign in here, I think. Yeah, my name is Philip Rosenzweig,
Okay.
and yep.
While we're waiting, are you a student that needs something signed off? Okay, that's fine. Sometimes there are students, it's been a long time since we have, but we used to have students that came and needed us to sign off on something, and We used to make students stay till 8 o'clock and then we'd sign your certificates, so.
There we go. Maybe do full screen. Amazing. Thought it might be helpful briefly to understand what it is we do, because when you hear either RVs or trailers, there are all sorts of different
It would
interpretations.
help to know where this property is.
Sure.
I do not know where Monte Cristo Trail is. Thank you. Okay.
Oh, yeah, we have the property.
So you're near the Appalachian Trail then?
Yes, and that's why this is brought.
Okay, go ahead.
This is basically what one of our units looks like. What I want to say a little bit, if you can go to the next one, who we are, we're a company that purchases property. We generally purchase around 80 to 100 acres and place 40 to 60 cabins, which are each about 160 square feet on them. Each cabin has, you can go a little bit further, bed, kitchen, and a bathroom. We install electrical, septic, if it's required, according to the location. But generally, we install electrical, septic, fresh water. And each one of the cabins, we have a one-bedroom, a two-bedroom, one bed, a two-bed, and also an accessible cabin. They're very, very close to each other. They're mostly slightly different in size. But they all contain this little kitchenette. They all contain bathroom, which you see on the right, and a bed or two beds. They sit on a pad. The goal is, which you'll see in all of them, is to separate them from the other ones. So the notion is to give people privacy and a sense that we do not have TVs in them. We don't allow amplified music, where the notion is to truly get away, to have a campfire, go for a hike. We very often, they're either near hiking trails, and very often we put a nature path in. Everyone has a nature path. So the goal is for people to come and stay for anywhere from 1 to 7 days. We don't allow anybody to stay longer than 7 days. We're not a residence. They're not set up to be residences. And they tend to be within a couple of hours proximity to cities. So we're outside of LA and New York and Chicago, et cetera. You can see this aerial view. It kind of gives you an idea of the separation of the cabins. They all face away from the road, so when you're in the cabin, you have a view of nature. One of the things that we do is we try to reuse roads where they exist. We don't clear cut. We tend to have a maximum of about 15% cutting altogether, and that's sort of on the larger end. And generally, what we do is we also do planting. Very typically, we do planting of native species in areas where we might have disturbed the property. We're very cognizant of wildlife. We value wildlife, and very cognizant of also septic and making sure our runoff is controlled. We have no gray water.
You have no what?
No, there's not a gray water issue at all.
Got it.
Finally, that's the parcel. That's sort of the layout that you're seeing. So you'll see it's kind of light. Well, there's a big blue pond in there, but other than that, pretty light touch on the land. The land also has one back of house building, or sometimes it gets separated. We maintain a residence so that there's somebody there all the time to make sure that there's no noise after 10 o'clock. Fires are out by 10 o'clock, and to respond to anything else if somebody needs something, whatever it is. We do not have a food and beverage business whatsoever. We don't have a restaurant or a communal area. We encourage people to come, pick up something locally, bring food. The one thing you can do in the way of food and beverage is if you want, you can order on the first night for us to leave dry goods in there so you can make pasta or something like that. This is the existing space. You see there are roads, and what you'll see is that our plan mostly reuses these roads, and very often we do need to enhance them, either radiuses to make sure that emergency vehicles can get in, also making sure that if there's a two-way road, that you can pass according to code, et cetera. And I think I'm going to hand it over. Yeah. So that's sort of, I guess, before I hand it over, are there any questions about what?
I do have a question.
Yes.
So this is a short-term rental business?
It tends to be, the typical stay is 2 nights, on the weekends, sometimes 3 nights, but, and midweek, 2 to 3 nights. It depends.
Maximum 7.
But the maximum is 7.
So it's a business?
It's a business.
Business,
It is a
short-term
business.
rental business. So I looked over one of the short paper here, the easier one to read than the bigger one. I looked over that one, and I guess my main question is, why specifically are you trying to change the designation from mobile park to, I don't remember the verbiage, but why specifically are you looking to change the designation from what it was approved at, which was mobile park?
Well, this particular property sits within the R2.
Sorry, you please use the microphone?
Oh, yeah, sorry. This particular property sits within the R2 zoning district. So the R2 zone, and there's a couple of slides here, actually. I could maybe find it here. Oh, yeah, here we go. So you see the R2 zone here? It's in the red, right? And it says, mobile, I'm sorry, my glasses are perfect. Right, mobile home parks, not allowed. Right, trailer parks, or trailer camps, same definition as mobile home park, also not allowed. So in the R2 zone, in order for this to be allowed at all, right, this, you guys need to understand exactly what we're trying to do with the business, what we're trying to do with the property. This is not a mobile home park, it's not a trailer camp, because folks are not living there. They're not staying there for longer than 7 days maximum. In fact, I think as Phil kind of mentioned here, the average is 1.5 days that people are staying there. So really this, this particular use falls more along the lines of, and I'm trying to find the definition if I have it here. Falls more along the lines of a large-scale planned recreational development, a type 1 camp, or even a motel. And you'll see in your packets there that I handed out just this evening, the motel definition is also in there, which also really, fits what Getaway is trying to do with this particular property, so.
Rocco, did you have any other questions? Because otherwise I've got it. No. Okay, so let's stick with that thought. Will you be paying hotel tax on the stays?
If we're designated a hotel, we will pay hotel tax, yes. Yes.
You have got other properties where you do this. Are you designated as a hotel?
Generally, we are campground. Sometimes we are a hotel. It depends on the jurisdiction, but mostly we are a campground.
Okay.
Because we are an RV, because there are RVs which arrive with RVIA designation.
So, yes, so that's the point. These are vehicles. These are motor vehicles that are registered to somebody, right?
They don't have a,
They're not.
They're not motor vehicles? They don't have tires and...
They're vehicles. They do not have, they can be pulled. They don't,
there's no motor.
there's no motor in them. There's no motor.
Okay, but they are, but are they registered with the Department of Motor Vehicles?
Yes.
Yes.
They have a VIN number. Yes, absolutely.
So they are vehicles?
They're trailers, yes, they're vehicles, that's right.
Okay. What's the current use of the property? Or previous use?
Shane?
Somebody's going to come up to the microphone if they're going to speak.
Hi, Shane Hobel. I'm the guy that owns the property. So
wait, you still own the property or they bought the property?
He owns the property, we're in contract.
Okay, got it, thank you.
so I purchased the property as is condition, and at the time, it was the existing lodge. It was the Monte Rosa. It was a restaurant. There's lodging. There's a motel up there. There's 9 rooms, each with their own bathroom up there. So that was the use, and I know that it has recreation use, including camping, which is essentially what this is. They're just boxes on wheels.
I'm not asking for that, I'm just asking what is the current use of the property?
Well, that's what it is. It's recreational and
Okay.
it has the restaurant on it.
Got it. No
the
problem.
lodge With those, yeah, the 9 rooms.
Thank you.
Yeah.
When you say there are going to be short-term rentals, what time of year? Are these equipped for people to be there all year round?
All year round, yes.
Okay. Does each home have a septic and well?
Is it a, well, it's not a home, first of all. I just want to be clear.
That's the point I'm getting to.
yeah.
Does each residential unit have a,
Well, it's not a residential unit either.
thank
right?
you, you're helping, you're getting us there.
Yeah, these are, for transient use.
These trailers.
It's like a motel, right? Or, for example, much like another campground that also exists within, and we can get to that later, it's for transient, temporary occupancy by somebody who's coming to visit.
Do you get permits from the town to construct these units?
Well, generally, they're RVIA.
Right, so they come in, they're already constructed.
That is not always true. That it depends on the municipality. We are opening one actually in a couple of months in which they did require individual inspection and permit. So I would say it's jurisdiction to jurisdiction.
Okay, just please pay attention to the microphone.
It is.
Okay?
Yeah. Yep.
So I didn't get an answer to the question, septic and well. Will each unit have its own septic and well?
Each unit will be connected to septic, but we will not have its own, we won't do individual,
So you're going to have a wastewater treatment plant up there? What are you going to do up there?
It's septic field.
There's a septic field, but we run, we connect them, or, sometimes there are 2 or 3, it depends on the particular location, but they are all connected to septic, either directly, one-on-one, but mostly they share septic with 5 or 6
How
units.
about water? How are they getting water?
Same thing, we have a well.
There's a water system up there?
Yep. We would put one in, yes.
So when you say 15%, you're going to cut down trees on 15% of the property or 15%?
I think it's even less than that.
In this case, it's much less, but I'm saying, because this already has roads, which,
Stay closer to the microphone.
this already has roads, which constitute a lot of the
Common area.
Yeah, so actually, the cabins are about 8.5 feet wide and about 15 to 20 feet long, dependent on the location, use, and they sit on a gravel pad. So that area is cleared if it needs to be. However, we always look for the spaces according to what, we don't like really cutting down trees, so that's not what we do by and large.
If the units need repair or fall into disrepair, do you wheel them out and bring a new one in? How do you, or not for nothing, if the operation is not successful, are these structures, these units, whatever you want to call them, are they going to be wheeled out?
They could be removed. They remain on wheels, absolutely, and we, every month, maintain the pressure in the wheels and et cetera. So yes, they're maintained to be mobile. According to the jurisdiction, some require them to be plated still, some not. There's a lot of difference in that. By and large, we do repairs, actually, they're built according, they're stick built, and they're built very similar to any stick frame building. So our expectation is that they would last not on the interior, but on the exterior with good maintenance for 30 years. And we always maintain them. We repaint them and do all the things that maintain. I mean, the picture that I took is one that's a couple years old. So,
Comments or questions? Go ahead.
So
yeah,
they have wheels on them.
they do.
They come in, they're pulled in as a trailer. They have a license plate on them when they're driving on the New York State highway?
Sure, they're towed, yes, absolutely.
License plate says trailer.
The license plate is a trailer.
Okay. So they're brought in, placed on a pad. They can be removed at any time. If they need to be repaired, they can be removed. They don't have their own water, they don't have their own septic. Everything connects to a communal septic and communal water.
Yes, they're plugged
But
in.
by New York State law, they're defined as a trailer.
No.
New York State, I should say, by the Department of Motor Vehicles to designate it as a trailer.
By the DMV, I have to confess, I'm a land use lawyer. I'm not a Department of Motor Vehicles attorney, and I don't have an exact answer to that, although I can get back to you on that. I think, largely what you're getting at is the word trailer, right? Is this something that needs to be licensed when it's on the road, and then when it's dropped off at the site, is it movable, things like that. Having spoken with Getaway and having seen what they've done with other sites, for example, there are ways to tie these down, for example, to the actual site itself to make them more permanent. For example, they have tension cables, all kinds of things like that can make them, much more permanent to the particular site.
In fact, if you look at them, they're also, once they're rolled in, you'll see in the front of the upper right-hand corner, they're level on pads so that.
No, I understand. I'm just trying to get clear in my head your argument, because according to the DMV, they're a trailer. They have a trailer plate on them. If a landscaper has a trailer and he has his lawnmowers on him and he brings them to his backyard and he parks that trailer in his backyard and he puts stakes in the ground and mounts it, it's still a trailer.
Well, that's a good question.
It still has a trailer plate on it.
That is a good question. And I think what it really boils down to are the definitions in the zoning code, right? Because that's really what we're working with. You guys, the ZBA, you interpret the zoning code. That's what you guys do here, right? So typically, we look at the language of the actual ordinance at first, right? And understand what are the parameters here for understanding whether a particular use falls within the definition of the thing that they are proposing to do, right? So here we have Getaway, they have something like this that's proposed, right? You look at the definition of something like a large-scale planned recreational development, you look at the definition of something like a type 1 camp, you look at the definition of a motel, all of which are allowed within the R2 zoning district, subject to special permitting by the planning board. This use falls squarely within all three of those. You can look at the definition, right? And we actually have,
I'm not sure we're concerned about the use.
Yeah?
Why this type of a structure? I think that's what we're getting at, is whether it's a trailer and whether it's a trailer park. If it's the use, I think it's a good idea to make this a campground. I have no problem with that. It's the structure. Why not go permanent structures?
Good. We haven't tried that, but
You can do modular units and get them put on site and they're permanent. Why not? Why
Yeah,
are we,
so-
what's the dilemma with the wheels here? Why is the,
Well, here's the thing. It's a bigger business. They have a lot of campgrounds in lots of parts of the country, right? So sometimes, for example, when you're building the units, it's cost effective to build them as you've been building them in other
same
places.
as any modular company?
Absolutely.
I don't disagree.
Absolutely. Totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
What I'm getting at here is that in our brief, I think, Mr. Cunningham, you've probably reviewed, we've asked, for example, for you guys to say, hey, as is, it may not fit within this particular definition or this definition, but if they were to do this thing or this other thing, then they would fall within this definition or this definition.
That's up to us to interpret. It's not up to us to suggest that they need to do something else.
Well, I'm
asking the question, why not do that something else? Why not just bring modular units in and be done with it?
Yeah, I think what Getaway is asking for is some certainty as far as, what might be allowed, and that's why we reached out to the building department in the first place, is to say, hey, this is the type of thing that we want to do here, this is what we'd like to do. Can you tell us if this is allowed as this particular use or what have you?
Okay, so you were
in the zoning
granted a
district?
decision or an interpretation by the zoning administrator that said it's not allowed because it's got wheels. So,
Well, that wasn't specified in, is
well,
that the
I'm
interpretation?
probably,
No, we just determined it's a trailer camp.
Okay, but was it because it had wheels, or?
Well, that certainly went into our decision-making.
Okay. All right, well, that's good to know. I didn't read that in the decision itself, so, something certain. if I had known that before, then we would have, come more prepared, to propose different things, of course. But I think what we're
How
asking,
many units are you talking about in all up on this property? How many acres is the property and how many units?
86 acres, 50 tiny cabin units.
It's a nice concept.
I agree.
Wonderful concept.
Yeah. As long as you don't have Wi-Fi up there.
No
You want people-
Wi-Fi.
You
No,
want
that's
people
the
to get
whole
away,
point.
then you gotta
That's
cut
the
off their
whole
cell
point.
phones.
No Wi-Fi whatsoever.
And that's why their visits are only like a day and a half.
That's
because
why
they
people can't
survive
stay there.
without
They
their
can't stay there
phones.
for that long. There's no way.
Kids there.
Right.
No Wi-Fi, no kids.
Well, no, little kids will be there.
Kids are there, actually,
Microphone,
you're right, that little kids do go there, and very typically, people don't come there with their teenagers, and then what we do see is a lot of parents with kids up to 8, 9, 7, 10, I don't know, and then singles and couples, and
Yeah.
that's it.
people who are prepared to spend a couple days without their cell phones and
And
wireless.
especially if, not probably the subject of this, mostly even, because sometimes they're within range of a cell tower, but really what they're not, depends on, we don't look for them relative to that, but really not TV. That's really the thing, and really no amplified music outside. So it's really to disconnect, whether people can.
My personal opinion, guys, is I totally agree with the concept here. I just don't like the wheels and the motor vehicle, the vehicle component of it, the trailer park component of it. So obviously, we'd have to get guidance from our attorney, but if you can make these permanent structures, I'd feel a lot more comfortable that it meets the requirements of the code.
Yeah, I can, and we can certainly submit, some additional briefing on this. I think, not that Mr. Cunningham needs any more reading to do, but I'm happy to, submit some additional things. I think the standard under the law, right, is that you have a zoning use, and if there's nothing prohibited in that, particular, for example,
But
the
if it is
definition of
prohibited-
the definition of large-scale recreational development under the zoning code, it doesn't say anything about the structure shall not have wheels, right? Or, and same thing goes for a type 1 camp, and actually, frankly, same thing goes for motel.
But if it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck. It's a trailer.
I have heard the argument before, and I take that into consideration, as does Getaway, which is partially why we asked for in our filings, just to say, hey, guys, if you think that we would fit within a particular definition, for example, if they didn't have wheels, just tell us, right? Let us know, and then we can work with that, whatever the...
But again, it's usually not, that's, our position has always been, it's not up to us to tell you what you should do to get something approved. You would to tell us what you're looking for,
Yeah.
and we would tell you whether it's
And
allowed or not.
we're happy to come up with a couple of scenarios, things like
I mean,
that.
it sounds like you need to
Or-
sit down with the town planner and just have a conversation about,
And we did, yeah, well, they recommended basically that we came to the ZBA. We were working with,
Okay.
with the planning board at first, and then we're here as a result of the zoning interpretation, but also as a result of their suggestion that we come in this direction.
within your documents that you've given us, do we actually have the zoning code in here? I mean, what references you want us to specifically look at?
Yes.
Okay.
With the
It's probably in
addendum.
the bigger package, I just didn't look at it
Yeah,
all.
with the addendum of the, what I submitted today, which is just basically the definition of motel. Here is how exactly we fit within the definition of motel.
Okay.
And-
So your choice at this point is, do you want to proceed or do you want to reconsider based on the conversation that we've had here this evening? Do you want us to proceed with a public hearing? Because our interpretation is subject to other people telling us what they think as well.
Right, and I understand, public comment is public comment. Folks will come in and say exactly how they feel about the project, one way or another.
Well, I don't care how they feel about the project. We want to know what they think about what the code says and whether what you're proposing meets
Oh, I
what's
agree.
allowed by code.
I
I don't
suppose,
care about the project, that's the planning board's jurisdiction.
I suppose I'm one of the jaded ones at some point, being in other jurisdictions, it tends to skew towards the project when the public comment comes in.
No.
But,
Well, we would limit any discussion to interpretation and what the code says, what you're proposing, and how it meets the code or it doesn't meet the code.
so would you suggest, for example, that we submit just some alternatives as far as, here's what Getaway can do as far as the wheels are concerned?
I would think that's a better option rather than us going through an interpretation and coming up with a conclusion that may not be what you're looking for.
But you wouldn't be willing, for example, at this point to say, without wheels and on blocks, for example?
It's not up to us to do
And
that.
I think too, it's, it's a hypothetical at this point. It's not
Right,
the actual
it's not up to
application
us.
before them. So I think, to summarize what you heard, at least two of the board members, brought up some points about why these would be trailers under the DMV law and why it would fit in the, in that section of the code. And you need 3 affirmative votes in order to overturn Matt's decision. So you already have 2 that seem to, not that anything's predetermined.
Raising
but
concerns.
That are raising concerns. And the other 2 haven't spoken, so you already seem to be starting at maybe in a deficit. So perhaps your best action would be then is to go and review the different code sections and maybe see if you could submit an alternative that would have the units permanently affixed to the ground. And maybe, we don't know, that could lead to a different determination. It could, or it could not lead to a different determination. But then if you appeal, at least it seems like you have people you have a board that hasn't yet opined about what permanently affixed and whether or not it would or wouldn't be. It seems like right now,
That seems to be the sticking point, right? Yeah.
they seem to be trailers, according to members of the board. And it seems like, obviously, if they have, a VIN number if they have a VIN number and they got DMV plates, they do seem to sound like trailers.
And believe me, I have, in my affordable housing world, I have actually seen trailers that are used as homes. So I'm not disputing that, but the code allows in that particular municipality, not this town, the code allowed for that to exist with a permanent foundation, et cetera. So that's not what you're showing me here.
Well, I think, first of all, we're working with Getaway on, what is acceptable, what they can do, right? Because we can't do something that they can't do, and we also can't do anything that you guys can't approve, right? So working within, the middle of that Venn diagram, we're happy to submit, some alternatives for what you guys, I think oftentimes we're guessing, right? We're throwing darts at a board and trying to figure out where you guys might land on a particular issue. And that's why we asked in this appeal for some guidance on that.
Okay, without having the benefit of any public comment, without having the benefit of discussion amongst ourselves, as our attorney has said, you've heard some of us have some significant concerns about your interpretation and versus the interpretation from the zoning administrator. Again, just based on the quick read of things, because, I did look somewhat at your package like a week or so ago. Excuse me. So I don't think you're ready for us to go to a public hearing yet, for us to continue along the route of this interpretation. I think you may want to go back and figure out if you have another option that may work first.
Something along the lines of no wheels.
It's not up to us to tell you what to do, guys.
I'm trying to get
If
something.
we have an objection to a trailer, I would try to not use a trailer.
And
Could I be any clearer than that?
I understand. I just, for the benefit of the record, and I'm sure Mr. Cunningham understands why I should bring this up for the benefit of the client. There is another campground in Fishkill that's a lot like what
East
Getaway.
Fishkill or Fishkill?
East Fishkill.
Okay.
It's a lot like, you can see kind of very vaguely in the right picture there. That's the Sylvan Beach Park that's on the edge with Beekman.
That's been there for how long?
Many years, but if you go to the and I went back to the zoning code even before, right? When they purchased this property in 2019, right? So it's relatively recent. These are overhead images, at least on the right.
Wait, you're telling me that this other trailer park came into existence in 2019?
Well, they purchased the property in 2019.
That doesn't tell me how long the park has been in existence.
I will go back and show the images from prior. These particular units exist there after 2019.
After, but did they exist before 2019?
Sorry?
Do they exist before 2019?
My understanding is no. So this is, that's where the Sylvan Park, the campground is there.
Somebody hasn't filed a complaint about it, then we might not know about it.
Duly noted.
Yeah, exactly.
Something that I have to raise on behalf of my client,
That's
nothing.
so noted. Thank you, that's fine.
Right, yeah, so, these are the typical similarities between the two that exist, so.
Between, the similarities between the two what?
Between what Getaway is proposing to do in the R2 zone and what is currently operating in the R1 zone that has exact same zoning restrictions and permissions.
Okay.
As far as hotel, motel, large-scale recreational development, type 1 camp, and trailer camp, mobile home park. Same thing.
So the pictures that you were showing,
The lot, section, block, and lot number?
It's in the, yeah.
it's in the package.
It's in the whole packet, yeah.
When you were comparing the pictures up here, I think I saw them in the package. You're comparing what Getaway is proposing and what the Sylvan Lake Park is doing, is that?
Yeah, what
what he
exists
said.
right now.
Okay, I just want to make
Yeah.
sure that my
Yeah.
understanding, so the Sylvan and the Gateway are using the same way, are proposing the same, or
Let's
have
just
the
say
same concept?
the inside looks a heck of a lot nicer than the outside. Go ahead.
Okay, and they're both on wheels basically at this point, and, okay. Because I saw them up and I just got the package, so I haven't had a
Yeah.
chance to read it. Okay.
Yeah, I would suggest just
So
looking
I
through
think
the
I think
presentation.
we need to know what's happening at Sylvan Park up there.
Yeah,
and-
to understand. Listen, we're not here to like throw somebody else under the rug or whatever, we're not trying to do that. I think our whole thing is that like, hey, if this thing is being allowed here, then why is it not okay for us to
The
do what
question is
we're,
whether it's really being allowed.
and also, whether
They
it's.
exist, it
Right.
may not, whether,
And also whether it's fair for, one to exist and not for the other to exist.
right, and again, that goes to the question of whether it's actually allowed or not.
Absolutely.
Okay, so, okay.
And we make a commitment to the outside looking as good as the inside.
Yeah, the inside looks great, the outside looks great.
For the record. Wait.
Yeah, look at that. Pretty good.
Okay.
All right.
Anything else?
A lot more slides. Nothing
Anything
else for now.
else?
I think,
So what's your ask of us at this point? Do you want to come back next month and tell us what you guys are thinking, or do you want us to actually go ahead with a public hearing? Because if
well,
we
you've
don't go ahead with
continued,
the
you've
public
continued
hearing,
public hearings, right? And,
we refund your money and you can just,
oh no, I'm saying like, you continue the for example, if you were to set a public.
Right now, it's a review, and the next month, if we do go forward, it'll be public, will be notified, they'll have to comment, et cetera.
Right.
So, and we don't continue public hearing for a long time. I mean, it's like,
yeah, if we have the public hearing, get our comments, and then we
Yeah, that's
close it,
it.
and then we make a decision on you.
Correct.
And
Let's address the concern.
Yeah.
And not go on right now.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's hold off for now. What we'll do, Mr. Cunningham will submit some alternatives, things like that, and also some briefing on the fact that the Zoning Board of Appeals can issue those types of advisory sort of things, not advisory, but if you suggest those types of alternatives, then they can determine and go from there.
and it'll also help when you have a public hearing, the public will be aware that, you have a trailer unit, a fixed unit, and a hybrid unit, for example, interior, and then, and how we will And whatever so when the public sees the options, then we get their feedback, so it'll also help you and your client.
So basically present the alternatives, basically, this is what the, stick
Yeah, I mean, it
build
has got
on
100
the blocks would look like,
Correct. I mean, it's 80-plus acres,
Hold
and
on,
so...
we have to be careful what our role is, though. Our role is to issue an interpretation about whether what they're proposing is a trailer park.
Correct.
All right, so based on what I'm seeing right now, I'd have one interpretation. If you're going to change it and ask for that same interpretation, it may make sense to have a discussion with the planner and the zoning administrator first, because you may not need that interpretation from us.
Correct.
Okay?
well, yeah. Right.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So we'll see you next month unless you've decided otherwise that you've had a different discussion with the town.
Huh? Next month, we'll appear and give them the whole deal.
But not a public.
Not a
Not a public hearing. We are not scheduling it for public hearings.
It's parcel.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, guys.
Item number 10, Appeals 4062, Margaret McDuffie, 17 Laura Lane, Hopewell Junction, requesting a variance for a proposed 10-foot by 12-foot, 120-square-foot shed to be located in the front yard pursuant to the schedule of bulk regulations of the zoning ordinance. Good evening.
Good evening.
So you are, please explain why would your shed need to be in the front yard?
Well, a couple of reasons. The main thing is that it's a very sloped property, and the most level area is in the front. It's also near the driveway, so it's just easy to access. There are two uses for this shed. One, I'm a cabinet maker and a woodworker, and I have a little sort of sub shop at home, and this shed would be partially to store wood just to keep it dry and out of weather. I'd also keep some yard tools there as well. The property's kind of wide, so there's a very small shed, existing shed already. I know that I need also the permit for two of them. And it's small and it's kind of right in front of a slope, so I could climb into it. And it's fine, but I would like to have, I work a lot on the property. I want to make it nicer, so I'd like to have something closer and easier to access, to work from. But also it's about storing the wood. And again, it's one of the few areas in the property that's level. The rest is sloped and very wooded. There's a lawn down below, but it gets very saturated. It's sloped and it just gets completely soaked. It holds rain for a long time and beyond.
Where's your septic and well?
It's down on that lower lawn. It's sort of a sloped lawn behind the house.
What is your backyard used for right now?
I'm sorry?
What's your backyard used for right now?
It's
Is it wooded
just,
or is it clear?
it's half wooded. It's wood. It's trees on the side, and then that big open area in the middle.
I mean,
again,
your survey's not giving us,
not giving you any information.
well, it gives us information about where things are. It looks like your land is flat. It
Right.
looks like
Of course.
there's no trees, so that's why I have to ask certain questions, because I don't have an aerial here that shows me otherwise.
I know. I should have done something like that.
So what would you think is the slope difference, the topography, if you're saying it goes up or down in the back?
So the front, when you look at the property from the road, the front is somewhat level, and then it slopes a little toward the house. And then it's behind the house, it slopes way down, and then behind that, there's a cliff, and there's a little pond that I never even go to because it's just a cliff, literally. So a lot of it's just kind of, I leave it open, and again, I already have problems with the septic. It doesn't back up, but it kind of breathes a lot, and it's because that bottom lawn is very wet. It's clay, and it just doesn't really breathe. So I don't want to put a building there, and I don't want to cut down a lot of trees in that area to put a building, on top of which, if I have a shed down there, then I'm hauling everything back up to the top where I do most of the work.
Is this shed going to be visible from the road?
It is visible from the road. It's about 60 feet off the road, so it's pretty far from the road.
And what color
Like
are
the
you
house.
proposing it to
It's the same color as the house. It's gray.
Dark gray, light gray?
It's sort of a medium gray. I guess they call it French gray or something like that. And
Are you proposing any screening around it?
yes, absolutely. Yep. I would have some I want to use native plants and shrubbery on the front, and if I can get something taller, that would be even better, you know? I'd like to,
If it's visible from the road, that's where we have,
right, I understand. If you're on the road, though, now the thing about this road is it's a cul-de-sac, and I'm right near the end of the cul-de-sac.
Jeannie, sorry, can you shut the door? Go ahead.
And, sorry. So it's not, there isn't a lot of, you know, it isn't like on a main road or a road where people are passing all the time. Also, for what it's worth, I know this is probably early for this, but I did get several neighbors to sign a letter saying that they were perfectly
so you've
okay
talked
with it.
your neighbors and they don't...
Absolutely, and they're all behind it, for sure.
Do I understand there's a pod on this property now?
That, yes, that's holding the wood that I want to put into a shed.
How long has it been there?
I don't want to have a pod. It's been there since November when I moved the wood back to that property. I had a place in Cold Spring, a little wood shop, and there's just a lot of wood over the years. I've been doing it for 30 years. I've had lots of, I do small things. I have blanks. Some of them are bigger, but it's wood I've been holding on to a long time, and I want to be able to use it, but I don't have room for it in the garage or the shop.
So you're not actually operating a business out of your home, right?
No.
Okay. Do you have another location for this?
Yeah, and yes, it's down in Cold Spring. Yeah. But, I mean, I do some hobby stuff that I might sell here or there, but not a business, not like cabinet installations or anything like that.
Hi, so
Yes.
where the pod is that where you want to put the shed?
No, it's it's near there. The pod is just off the driveway because that's easiest for them to just sort of park it there. But it's a little farther off, a little farther to the south.
A little farther to the house, you said?
No, farther, sorry, to the south. I think of everything in terms of directions.
Is it closer to the road or is it closer to the house? The shed where you're proposing?
Oh, it's like a few feet closer. Well, it's actually about in line when I think about it. So if the pod goes, it's about in line. It's about in the same place where the shed
Is it the pad?
And there's a pad there, yes.
Pad there, but
Because I
not
wasn't,
really visible in the photos when I went because it had just snowed.
when it just snowed, everything was covered,
okay.
so you couldn't really see.
It's kind of near the pod.
Yeah, it's just behind it.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Are there other areas where you can place it? Because I see a concrete wall, gravel area, garden, deck, shed area. So aren't there other places to place this shed? It's only 10 feet by 17 feet.
Right, well, one thing is, you see that concrete walk, where it says concrete walk?
Correct.
It's a pathway that goes down, so it goes around behind the house. The house is a two-story house, but you enter on the top floor, and the bottom floor is down below in the back, so that's part where the slope is. So that just means carting everything back up the hill. This is partly a matter of convenience. I completely understand that that's selfish on my part, but also getting a little older, I'm trying not to keep putting wear and tear. I don't know, I thought a lot about the placement. When you're on the property, it makes a certain sort of sense where it is. Aesthetically, I think it would work.
Hey, but if you just moved it back, literally the 10 feet,
Well, if it goes back 10 feet, it hits a slope, and then it's on a slope.
well, you can put a shed on a slope. I mean, you can balance it out so that it would stay stable.
Right, no, I understand that. It's just approaching it, it becomes awkward. I'm trying to have it on a level
I'm just trying to get
area.
you behind the front line of the house, and then you don't even need to be here.
I know, I understand that.
Looks like it's in line with the front of the house.
I know, but right below that, it slopes and there's trees everywhere. So there's trees, when you are looking at the picture, all along the left side of the house and the right side of the house, all the way down, it's trees. And
We're going to need some pictures to help us.
okay.
But
I could get an aerial image of it or something
So
like
where
that.
you're proposing it, it's mainly because it's level land,
It's level,
easier for you to get in and out of.
yeah.
Move it back like we're suggesting. You don't like that because it creates an incline and it'd be more laborious to carry stuff in and out of it because of the incline of the property.
Yeah, I'd probably have to put in some fill to level it and then approach it from the front, so I'd have the opening facing the road. It seems probably better to have it facing away from the road but
Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. This is so bad.
If you were to move
it's
it
kind
back,
of
how
hard
much
to-
room do you have?
I'm sorry?
How much room do you have where it's sitting now, where that slab is sitting now, and heading back? How much room do you have before you hit that?
It's kind of right there. I put it kind of as close to that edge as I could. I'd still be walking up to it a little bit from its front. It just faces down a slope. And it's not an extreme slope there, but it just kind of keeps going and right into the trees. So again, I was just trying to, and not just for myself, I did a bit of work on this house partly because for me, it's like the adage of planting a tree for the next generation. I want to make this house function better, and because of its size, having that outbuilding, it also just makes it easier to maintain the property in general. I'm kind of all about that, about keeping things neat and well-maintained, so it's about it being easier for the next person as well, just for what it's worth. But yeah, so can I submit how would I get overhead images of that?
I mean,
Can I just do a Google Earth screenshot or something
Yes, I
that's
mean-
really good?
You don't need overhead. I mean, if you just look at the terrain of your slopes and stuff, so at least we know that, and they'll become part of the record.
Okay.
We have some pictures up here, but because of the snow, it's very
Yeah, you
difficult to
can't
figure
tell.
out.
It's hard with the snow, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of snow, so we see the pod, and I'm imagining.
Right, that's what's
that it's gonna
sticking
be
out.
right close to the pod and how it's going to look
Yeah.
from the front. But again, if you didn't say that, again, if you go down to the concrete walkway and the garden area or deck area, it has a slope, then you have a better argument to.
It's just, yeah, slippery. And the second it rains, everything becomes a kind of a slick mess, so.
I sympathize with you. I put my shed at the bottom of the slope.
Oh.
And I curse every time I climb back up it. And I've slipped going back down it too. so.
Motion to advertise?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we will,
Sorry, the motion was to what? I didn't just.
You just get the.
so we have to have a public hearing before we can issue decision. We have to hear from your neighbors.
Of course.
So the fact that you have letters from them, we'll read them into the record at the next meeting. But, so you'll come back next month, you put a sign up, Jeannie will give you your information about your sign, and then we'll see you next month. Okay?
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Thank you for your time.
So, did you learn anything? You want to be a board member? Yeah, we'll give you a little bit of time.
This night, I can get